Okay, so Bitcoin hitting $225,000 in just 18 to 24 months. That's a pretty bold prediction, and it's definitely got people talking. You guys have been asking for a deep dive on this, so let's get into it. What's driving this potential surge?
Well, it really is a combination of things, not just hype. There are some real developments that are worth looking into.
Yeah, it's not like someone just pulled this number out of thin air, for example.
Yeah.
We've got the Bitcoin halving coming up in 2024. I know you know all about this, but
Yeah.
for our listeners who might not be familiar,
Yeah.
can you explain what happens during a halving and how does that play into this $225,000 prediction?
Sure. Basically, Bitcoin halving is when the reward that miners get for verifying transactions gets cut in half. It's a way to control the supply of Bitcoin. And historically, we've seen big price increases after these halving events. Less new Bitcoin is entering circulation, but the demand keeps growing.
Right.
That creates a supply squeeze, which can drive the price up.
Oh.
The analyst behind this prediction sees this halving as a key factor in that really fast timeline to $225,000.
Okay, so the halving is like a built-in scarcity booster.
Yeah.
But it's not just about that, is it? We're also seeing major companies getting involved with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like Tesla, MicroStrategy,
Yeah.
even Square. That has to have some impact, right?
Absolutely. When you have big companies putting their money and their reputation behind Bitcoin, it sends a powerful message to the market.
Yeah.
It adds legitimacy, which can attract more investors,
Okay.
both big institutions and everyday people.
Right.
And we're also seeing this play out with the rise of Bitcoin ETFs. They provide a more traditional way for people to invest in Bitcoin. All that new money coming in can further increase demand and potentially push the price even higher.
So you got the halving, shrinking the supply, big companies jumping in, which could signal a wider shift toward Bitcoin as a real asset. It's starting to feel like a lot of pieces lining up here.
Yeah, and all of this is happening in the context of the global economy.
Yeah.
A lot of people are worried about rising inflation, and that can make Bitcoin more attractive as a hedge against their local currency losing value.
So people might see Bitcoin as a way to protect their money when their local currency is going down. I can see how that fits in.
Exactly. So you've got this convergence of events, the halving, institutional adoption, a global economy full of uncertainty. It creates a really strong case for Bitcoin to keep growing. But of course, we have to look at both sides of the coin.
Right. We can't just ignore the skeptics. What are their concerns about this prediction? What could throw a wrench in the works?
Well, just like any investment, there are risks involved. Bitcoin is known for its ups and downs, and the crypto market is influenced by unpredictable things. One concern is the potential for stricter regulations. Governments around the world are still figuring out how to handle cryptocurrencies, and things could change pretty fast. Tighter regulations on exchanges or even taxes on Bitcoin gains could have a big impact on the price.
Okay, so even if the halving and the institutional investment and the global economic trends all point towards this huge price jump, regulatory uncertainty could still mess things up.
Exactly.
That's a big factor to consider.
And then you've got the technological risks. Bitcoin relies on a decentralized network, which is great in a lot of ways. But it also means that any vulnerabilities in that technology could be exploited. We've seen that happen with other cryptocurrencies. It's something investors always have to keep in mind.
So it's not just outside forces like regulations. There are internal factors, too, like how secure and stable the technology is.
Right. And let's not forget the bigger picture, the macroeconomic landscape. Things like rising interest rates, recessions, even geopolitical events can impact the crypto market.
Of course, yeah.
Bitcoin doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Right. It's all connected.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's this balance between these really bullish factors that could push Bitcoin to $225,000 and then these potential roadblocks that could completely derail things. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is. And that's why it's so important to approach this, and really any investment, with a balanced and informed perspective.
That's good advice for anything in life, really.
Don't get caught up in the hype, but don't dismiss the possibilities either.
Right.
Do your research, understand the risks, and then make informed decisions.
Okay, so informed decision-making is key. But how do you even start to sort through all of this? We've got the halving, institutional adoption, the global economic situation, potential regulations, technology risks. It's a lot.
Well, one thing to remember is that Bitcoin has defied expectations before. It's come back from crashes. It's survived regulatory challenges. And ultimately, it's carved out its own place in the financial world. The optimists point to this history as evidence that Bitcoin can overcome challenges and continue to grow.
So even with all the potential risks, there's this historical resilience, like it's weathered the storm before.
Yes. And the current conditions, with more and more institutions getting involved, the advancements in the technology, the growing awareness of Bitcoin as a store of value, all of these things support the optimistic view.
Okay, so that's what the optimists are saying. But we can't forget about those potential risks. How do you square those with this idea that Bitcoin's just going to keep going up?
That's where the skeptics come in. They urge caution. They remind us that the crypto market is still relatively young, and it can be very volatile.
Yeah, for sure.
They point to the fact that unpredictable events could easily throw Bitcoin off course. A major security breach, a sudden regulatory crackdown, a global economic crisis, any of these things could have a dramatic impact on the price.
It's like you said earlier, Bitcoin doesn't exist in a vacuum. These external forces can really matter. So we've got these two camps, the optimists who think $225,000 is possible, and the skeptics who are saying, hold on, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Don't let fear or hype control your decisions.
Don't make any rash decisions.
Exactly. Diversification is always smart. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh.
Whether that's Bitcoin or anything else.
Makes sense.
Spread your investments out to manage your risk.
So don't go all in on Bitcoin just because of this prediction.
Right.
Spread the risk around a bit.
And stay informed. Keep up with what's happening in the market, any changes in regulations, and new technological developments.
Yeah, keep learning.
Knowledge is power, especially in a fast-moving world like crypto.
So stay curious, do your research, and don't just blindly follow the hype.
And remember, it can be helpful to think long-term. Bitcoin has generally trended upwards, despite its short-term volatility.
Right.
If you believe in its potential, you can ride out those bumps and focus on the bigger picture.
Okay, so that's some really solid advice for navigating this whole Bitcoin situation. But let's zoom out for a second. Beyond the price predictions, how do you see Bitcoin's role in the financial system evolving?
That's a great question. I think what we're seeing is a shift from Bitcoin being purely a speculative asset to something that could be a legitimate store of value, maybe even a medium of exchange in the future.
So like a digital version of gold, or even a way to buy things every day.
Exactly. Central banks are exploring their own digital currencies.
Wow.
And blockchain technology, the technology behind Bitcoin, is becoming more mainstream.
Yeah.
All of this suggests that digital assets will play a much bigger role in the global economy.
It's amazing to see how much things are changing. It really is. And, you know, sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the numbers, the predictions, the potential gains and losses. But the bigger picture is fascinating. Just the fact that we're having this discussion about a digital currency that could be worth so much, it shows you how much the world is changing.
Absolutely. The way people think about money, about finance, about technology, it's all changing.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin is leading the way.
So we've covered this $225,000 prediction, this pretty short time frame of 18 to 24 months, and all of the factors driving things, both the good and the bad. Plus, this whole discussion about Bitcoin's place in the future of finance. It's a lot to think about.
It is, but that's what makes it so interesting. We're not just talking about an investment, we're talking about a potential paradigm shift.
Exactly. And that brings us back to you, our listeners. Knowing everything we've discussed today, what do you think? Is Bitcoin just a fad? A speculative bubble? Or is it something more? Could it really change the world of finance?
We've looked at the arguments, the historical context, the potential risks and rewards. Now it's your turn to draw your own conclusions.
That's what we love about these deep dives. We're not giving you all the answers, but we are giving you the information and insights you need to understand this complex and ever-changing world.
The future of finance is being written right now, and Bitcoin is a big part of that story.
So stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking questions. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.